So let's get started. So welcome to the BI Bootcamp webinar for Bitrix24. So the purpose of today's webinar is really to go through the Bitrix24 BI Builder, which allows you to create your very own dashboards to report on any area of Bitrix24. So what we'll do today is we'll go through the different areas of where the BI Builder can be used in Bitrix, for you to get an understanding of how and what the tools are within the BI Builder, and also obviously to create your very own dashboard. And those are the processes that we'll go through. First of all, though, we'll just do a quick introduction about who we are. So we are Intreface, and we are Bitrix24 Gold Partners. My name is Andy Naylor, and I am the head of customer success here at Intreface. We're located in York in the UK, New York, and Hong Kong. And we offer a whole range of different services from pre-sale support. So if you're looking to purchase Bitrix, then we offer a scoping calls and just to ensure that Bitrix is a good fit for your business. We offer implementation services to implement Bitrix in your business, hosting for the on-premise solution, training for all areas of Bitrix, and we offer training on-site and online, and ongoing support as well with annual support contracts. Just a short little bit about Bitrix24. I'm sure you're all aware of what Bitrix is, but it is a fantastic tool, and it's a collaboration suite of over 40 different tools. Obviously, today's focus is going to be on the BI Builder, but it does obviously have many other tools from the CRM to project management, HR tools. It's got a fantastic array of tools to use. Bitrix has over 15 million customers worldwide. They offer the solution in both a cloud solution and a self-hosted solution. And the prices start on the cloud from $49 per month to the on-premise, which starts at $3,590 on an annual basis. So that's a little bit about Bitrix24. But you'll be here today, obviously, to learn a little bit more about the BI Builder in Bitrix. So what we'll first of all do is we will go through some examples of dashboards just to give you some ideas, because I think it's important that you can see some examples to show you what widgets are available, what different charts are available, and what data that you can report on. So we'll go through those areas in Bitrix in a moment. I'll jump into a live system. And then we'll run through getting started in Bitrix on the BI Builder. So we just need to ensure that your system contains everything it needs to contain to be able to build those reports, because if Bitrix doesn't contain the data, then obviously we can't build a dashboard that looks at that. So it's really important that you get those foundations and fundamental fields and data sets in place beforehand. And then we'll really dive deeper into the BI Builder itself. So we'll look at the starting point of getting it set up, where it is, and how to, first of all, obviously access the BI Builder, but we'll have a look at the permissions area. So we'll be able to see, I'll be able to show you how you can restrict maybe different departments or different users from accessing dashboards. And then we will take a look at the actual nuts and bolts of the BI Builder itself. So we'll have a look at understanding the different charts that are available, the data sets that you use to build those. And then we'll look at the SQL lab a little bit. That can get quite complex when we look into that. So I'll show you a pre-made example. But for those of you that are on the session today, and if you have support with us, we can obviously assist with that, because it can get a little bit technical if you're unsure about SQL queries themselves. but I'll explain a little bit more about that later. And then finally, what we'll do is we'll create our very own dashboard. So we will create a dashboard for reimbursement claims, so expenses. So I'll be able to show you how we can report and build widgets on values, who submits that data, and so on and so forth. So I'll be able to show you beforehand of what it'll look like, and then we'll build that out. Okay. So let's first of all, as I mentioned, let's get started and jump into Bitrix itself, just to have a look at some examples. It's quite useful, I think, to see what the end product is, because it will allow you to visualize maybe how you'd want your data to look. So I'll be able to show you a number of different widgets and what the most common dashboards are in Bitrix. So we have lead inquiries. So if you're wanting to track your leads, where they're coming from, how many you're converting a month, a dashboard is a fantastic tool for that. Again, with the sales area, so if you're using the deals area of Bitrix, that is predominantly where all the sales figures are. So again, I'll be able to show you an example of that. But it's not all about CRM-based reporting. You can report on project time. So if you're creating tasks inside Bitrix and you're logging that particular time on tasks, then we can pull a report and a dashboard up on that. And then finally, I'll show you the reimbursement dashboard that we'll be building out towards the end of today's session. Okay, so what I'll do is I will just jump into Bitrix. So I'm just going to switch my windows here and just go into Bitrix itself. So if I click on the BI Builder in the left-hand menu in here, and for those of you that are watching and following on, if you're in Bitrix yourself, you should see the BI Builder in your left-hand menu. Especially if you're an administrator, you definitely will. If you're not an administrator on your system, I'll be able to show you in the next part of this session just how the access is granted to non-administrators. Okay. So going into some examples. So as I mentioned, one of the common uses in the BI Builder is to track inquiries. So if I click onto here and just open up an inquiry dashboard, what this example shows you is the data that represents incoming inquiries into the leads module. So you can have things like bar charts, you can have stacked charts on here to show you for those given months how many have been successful, how many have failed and in progress. Again, we can have pie charts in here. We can have tables as well. So we can have tables of data that just shows specific information that you would like to see. So this is leads by source. You can have leads by responsible person. So if they're getting distributed amongst your sales staff, you can pull up a table of all of those in here. We can have line graphs. And again, we've got a few more tables. So again, this is just to get you visualizing how some of these dashboards look. And by the way, if you do have any questions, please do just put them in the chat on the YouTube, next to the YouTube screen, and I can answer them as we go along as well. So this dashboard also just shows you a little bit of a different design element, is that you can have tabbed dashboards. So you essentially having multiple dashboards within one dashboard. So I can click on prior periods, have some number widgets in there, and I can switch back. So that's an example of an inquiry dashboard. We can have sales performance. So this kind of dashboard is probably the most common in Bitrix, because this is what looks at your sales data inside the deals module. So again, we're utilizing number widgets here. So we've got a number of number widgets, how many deals, how much in terms of pound value is in progress, how many deals we have in progress, and so on and so forth. So again, we have a nice progress graph underneath. And I'll be able to show you obviously how we build these shortly in today's session. We also have closed, so we can see what is the value of won deals. And one of the things with this is this data is all being calculated from the filters that I'm using on the left-hand side. So currently I'm filtering just over a year, well, just under a year, sorry, data. And this is a custom range, and we're grouping it currently by month. So, and we can report on responsible person in here, and we can, because we're in deals, we also can obviously filter by pipeline. And again, I'm going to show you how you can set these up a little bit later on today. So I just wanted to just show you just some examples that are quite common inside Bitrix. One of the other ones is activities and calls. So if your sales team are booking activity onto your deals or your leads, or you're using Bitrix telephony, a call dashboard, again, is quite a common dashboard that people are using. So you can see how many inbound calls come in, how much time is being spent on those calls, how many outbound calls you're making, especially if you've got Bitrix telephony connected up, calls by the hour, calls by the week. And again, you can define it by people as well. So all of this data sits already inside your CRM. The other one is the task dashboard. Now, there is quite a lot of data in this particular one. So this is coming away from the CRM, and instead it's looking at the project and task management area of Bitrix. All of these dashboards, by the way, already exist inside your Bitrix system, and I'll be able to show you where they exist. I've not built these ones. These ones are completely out of the box and available for you to jump into. You can edit them and make them, customize them more towards your requirements. But you can see in here, we've got quite a nice dashboard. And again, we can, one of the good things and most popular things is that we can drill down and see who the assignee is. So if I was to switch to myself, this whole dashboard would change based on that particular person being assigned. So the number of tasks completed and so on and so forth. So we have quite a nice range of different widgets in here again. And I'll show you how you can access these yourself. You don't have to build these from a complete brand new dashboard. And then the final one that we're going to build today is the reimbursement dashboard. Now, this is within an SPA. So for those of you that are familiar with how Bitrix is structured, we obviously have the CRM, but inside the CRM, more and more people are starting to use the smart process automation module to customize the module for things like submitting your expenses, or so a lot of people are starting to use the smart process automation tool for the help desk. People use it for projects and so on and so forth. So Bitrix also gives you the capability to build the report out for smart process automations as well. Okay, so that is the example dashboard that we'll be building later on based on the data that is currently in our SPA for reimbursement claims in here. Okay. So those are the examples of the dashboards. Now, if I just again switch back, just bear with me one moment. And we'll just have a look at what I would recommend doing first of all. So before even thinking about building a dashboard, you just need to obviously decide what reports that you would want. Now, that's quite an obvious thing to say, but it is the starting point before you should dive into the BI Builder and just think about what kind of reports do we want and where does that information sit within Bitrix? Because you really need to know that, because if, for example, you're wanting to report on inquiries, well, that's quite obvious because that sits in leads. So therefore, when we jump into the BI Builder in a moment, we'll know that that data will sit in the leads data set. And then again, if you're wanting to report on sales, that data will then sit on your deals data set, because majority of people are using deals for sales. And then help desk, people are using the smart process automation for a help desk. Again, I'll be able to show you how you can access that data, because it's not, when you're moving into smart process automation areas, it's a little bit more difficult to find. Once you've obviously thought about your reports that you would want, just make sure Bitrix stores that data. So lead by source, you'd want to report on where your leads are coming from. Is the system set up correctly to track those sources? So we have customers that use the UTM parameters when ad campaigns send traffic to their website. They then submit a form on their website. Does that pull their source correctly through so you can report accurately? Things like a lot of our customers report on sales by region. Do your deals have a custom field with the region field in it? This is quite obvious what I'm saying here, but it is the starting point before you should move into actually building it out. Because if it doesn't have that kind of data that you're wanting to report on, the first step for you is to go and create those custom fields in deals for your region. Go and update the sources so they are accurate. If you're wanting to track time spent on projects, learn how to add time onto tasks. It's, again, it is self-explanatory, but it's the first step. And once you've done that, then you can start diving into the BI Builder. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go into the BI Builder where we were a moment ago. And I'll just show you how to set it up with regards to permissions. Because obviously the reports in Bitrix are going to pull quite sensitive data that maybe not everybody in the organization you want to see. So as a starting point, an administrator will have the ability to set up those particular permissions. And I can go in and just show you how essentially to do that, because I think that is really important when you start creating your dashboards, that those permissions are in place. And those permissions also revolve around organizing your dashboards into groups. And again, I'll show you that now. So if I go back into Bitrix, sorry, you'll just have to see my face again while I switch to Bitrix. So in here, I'm now in the BI Builder in the left-hand menu again. And as you will see on my dashboards, they are nicely grouped up into different folders. Okay, so we've got BI Bootcamp, which is all our dashboards that we're going to go through today. But we also have other pre-built dashboards. And this is what I was referring to when I was showing you some examples. If you'd want that task report dashboard already, you can click into tasks and flows in here, and you will be able to see a list of all of the dashboards in here. Okay, so the ones that are currently ready, we have removed some of these, so we can remove them from the front end as well. But this is where you can go into, you can click, and they will be pre-populated with all of your data in there. So before I go into permissions, I would recommend creating a group in here. So on the all dashboards where the green create button is, just drop down and click on new group. Give the group a name. So I could say, for example, Intreface sales, and then click on save. That will create a new group where you can click into and start creating your dashboards. Okay. So once you've done that, then we can click into settings up at the top and then click into access permissions. Now, when I do that, what it does is it brings up, as you'll see, what people can do down this left-hand side. Okay. So in here, we've got actually being able to access the BI Builder. So we'll be able to see that link in the left-hand menu, create dashboards, edit dashboards. Quite a lot of these are self-explanatory in here. So this is what they can do, and this is who can do it across the top. Okay, so what we have is we have the bootcamp team here, and then they can access it, they can create dashboards, but they can't create tags, they can't manage access permissions, and then the sales team can only access, for example, the BI builder. And if we scroll down, what you'll be able to see is the groups. So when I created that Intreface sales group, you can currently see that nobody will have access to it other than an administrator. But if I wanted to grant access to the sales team, I can click on that deny access and just say I would like them to be able to maybe not export the data, maybe not delete. I don't want them to copy it. I don't really want them to edit it. I just want them to see the dashboard and the data within it. Click on apply. That will give the sales team, whoever is assigned the sales team role, click on save, and then that will update the permissions accordingly. Okay. If you want to add a new role, very simple, click on new, update the name. You can click on the 3 dots and click on rename, and then you just click on add, and I can add other users on here. And it's as simple as that. So, and then you can adjust accordingly what you'd want them to see. Okay. So that's the first thing that you should really do. And then what we will be obviously moving into is, after you've set that up, you would go into your group folder and then you would click and create new dashboard. I'm going to call it expenses dashboard, and this is what we're going to be doing shortly. One point just to note on here, it tells you what group you're adding it to. So that's my BI bootcamp. But the parameters is quite useful, because what you can do, and I know you just discussed the current user ID one for the time being, is that you can use the person who is viewing the dashboard to change all of the data. Okay. And that's really useful if you've got a sales team and you only want, whoever's viewing the dashboard, you only want the data inside that dashboard to display that they are responsible for. Okay. So if I was to use current user ID, and let's say, for example, Sam came to this expenses dashboard, the data inside that dashboard would only reflect Sam's data that's viewing the dashboard. He wouldn't be able to see my expenses that I'd submitted. He wouldn't be able to see Damien's expenses that he'd submitted. That is what these parameters are used for. It is a little bit more advanced than the normal approach when you start building the data sets out. But again, you're more than welcome to come to us. There's going to be a link on the last slide of this, just to ask us anything and talk about creating data sets using this. But for those of you that are wondering what the parameters are, that's what it is. And it is meaning that you can create one dashboard that dynamically changes to whoever is viewing it. So once I've done that, I can click on save. That will then open up my dashboard that I've just created, an empty blank canvas on there. And then what we'll do is we'll kick on from there in a moment and start building out this particular dashboard. Okay. So again, if I just switch back to the slide here, just bear with me one moment. And really what we'll do now is we'll look at the key areas of the BI builder itself. So I showed you a moment ago how you can simply create a dashboard. It's as simple as that. You click on a green button, it says create dashboard. And what we're going to do now is we're going to edit that particular dashboard. And I'll be able to walk you through that. But whilst we're editing it, it opens up the key areas and, like I say, the nuts and bolts of the BI builder itself. And the key areas of those really are, where it starts is really the data sets. Okay, so Bitrix provides you some library data sets. So what I mean by that is they give you a data set to create charts for all your deals. So you don't need to worry about creating your own custom data sets. They give you all the data that's needed to create reports on leads, contacts, companies, tasks. And I'll show you how you can access those and how you can then create charts using those. The other area that obviously we'll have a look at is the charts area. And again, that's a library of all of the charts that you have ever created. And you can go into there and create your own to put it on to the dashboards that you're going to be creating. Now, I realize my face cuts the last line off on that slide. The SQL area of the BI Builder is a more advanced tool. It is required for some kinds of reports. And that kind of report is particularly focused on the smart process automation module. You cannot build a report on any smart process automation module that you've created without using the SQL Builder, because the normal library data sets do not have that data in them, because they only include the core modules that come with Bitrix. And as I'm sure you're aware, for those people that have used smart process automations, they're custom to your own business requirements. So I will show you an example of that. I'll show you how to create a simple query looking at a smart process tool. But as I've mentioned a couple of times already, if you've got support with us, we can help you with the query itself. And then what you can do is take that query and build all your all your widgets and chart widgets from that. So don't worry too much about the SQL area if you're not used to writing SQL queries. Okay. So let's go back into Bitrix. And again, I'll just switch over on here. So if I go back to my expenses dashboard, that's currently empty. The idea is by the time that we finish this webinar, this will look like the example that I showed you earlier today. Okay. But the first thing that you need to do, once you've created your dashboard, it will look like this, blank canvas. And you need to then click on Edit in the top right-hand corner up here. Now, when you click on Edit, you will arrive at the page that gives you access to the BI Builder menu up across the top. Now, I noticed that that is a little bit small for you to see. So at the top, we have dashboards, which gives us a list of all the dashboards that we've already seen from the front end. But it also gives us access to the charts library, the datasets library that Bitrix comes with, and as I mentioned, the SQL area where we can build our own queries. Now, I just want to explain what each one of these components is, because it is quite important that you understand, again, the building blocks to build your own reports. Simply put, the data set is the starting point for any report that you build, okay? And when I click in here, it gives you a list of all pre-built queries that exist on the system already. And what I mean by that, if I was to search, let's just search for deal. I want to build a report on all of the sales figures that are in Bitrix. Now, I know that my sales figures exist in the deal area of Bitrix. So if I search for deal, and you can do this, and it will pull up pretty much exactly the same list, barring a couple that we've created ourselves. For example, the CRM deal is the area where you want to get all of the deal data from, okay? That is really key for you to use. And again, we will follow up this webinar with essentially an email and a bit of a cheat sheet to show you which data sets you should be using for sales, for leads, for tracking products. We'll give you a little bit of a cheat sheet for that, because we understand looking at this can be a little bit overwhelming in terms of where you're going to access that data from. But I think once you understand that inside CRM deal, if I was to click into that data set, we can see down this left-hand side, essentially every column, every standard field that exists inside a deal. Okay, so you can see where it says columns in here. I'll just minimize that. We have, for example, created date of a deal. We have the stage of a deal. We have the company ID, the products, responsible person. So this is every field that exists inside the deal, the pipeline, the company name. So if you're used to looking at a deal inside Bitrix, some people have had their deals renamed. Maybe it might be proposals, or it might be opportunities or sales. If you're on the on-premise, that is. I know some of our customers might be on today's. If it's been renamed, it's generally everything where the financial element is, it is in a deal. And for example, one of the key areas of here in these columns would be, I think there's an amount column in here. I think it's amount. Let's have a look. So you can search fields as well. So yeah, we have an amount figure, and that's the value of the deal. That's quite a key one. And I'm obviously going to show you how you can use these columns in a moment to be able to then create your reports simply by dragging them into the relevant areas in here. But I just wanted to explain what these data sets are, because that is where the data sits. And without that, we cannot build any charts. The first thing you need to do is just ensure that your data set exists. All of the standard modules do exist. Leads, deals, companies, contacts, tasks. They already exist in this data sets library in here. And as I say, we'll follow up with a bit of a cheat sheet of where everything sits in here. From that data set, the second area would really be your charts. And again, Bitrix have pre-built charts that when you click into the charts widget, you can say, let's have a look at the deals in progress. If I was to click into that, you might remember when I showed you my dashboard earlier, it said £50,200. That is a pre-built chart that you can use. Now, if you wanted to add one of those pre-built charts to your dashboard, you simply click on Save. Up in the top right-hand corner, you click on Save As, give it a little name, whatever you would like the name to be, and then you select the dashboard that you would like to add it to. So all of those charts that exist in that charts area are there for you to use. You can tweak them, you can modify them, you can bring in, maybe you didn't want bring a beginning date, maybe you wanted a close date. So if I wanted, for example, deal completed, I could bring that into here, or planned close date. I could drag and drop that into here. I could then get rid of it. And then that would give you maybe a forecast figure. So when you use that filter in the dashboard itself to show me the value of all deals that are expected to close this week, that's what that would give you, simply by changing the filter that you use. Okay, so the charts library is really good. And again, as you start to use the BI Builder, you become familiar with looking at these, tweaking them and modifying them to obviously achieve what it is that you would like to do. So with regards to the last part of this particular area, because I'm just giving you an overview before we start to create our widgets, it is the SQL Lab, okay? And this, I've done trainings before with clients, and this can be a little bit overwhelming if you're not used to writing SQL queries, okay? Before I do write a query, one thing just to point out is that maybe in the library data set, it doesn't give you what you need, okay? Maybe it gives you too much information. What you can do as a very basic level is in the SQL Lab, these two fields are already set. And in this table schema, and again, in our cheat sheet, we'll tell you what these tables mean, is we have where all the data lives in the back end of Bitrix, okay? So again, if I was just to show you deals, okay, just as an example, I can click on CRM deal. And when I do that, what it does is it brings up the raw data in table format of deals, okay? So if I wanted to use that, I could then save it as a new data set and then save it in here, okay? So this is essentially the table structure. Now, again, we're here to support you on this. We understand that this is a little bit advanced to obviously start writing your own queries. But one thing to say is that once you've got your data set from here, like I say, we can help you with that, is that we save it and then you can use that data set over and over again without ever coming back into here, okay? An example of that is in our reimbursement SPA, okay? So you can see here, I've written a query, and I will say one thing, that if you use ChatGPT or any other AI tool, it does help a lot. You can get ChatGPT to write the query for you, as long as you understand where the data is coming from in here. So this is the table, and this is in here. And the only time that you would need to really do this is if you were one of the main times is if you were reporting on an SPA. And I know I keep saying about that, but it is quite a lot of people are using now. And I just wanted to explain how you find for example, how do I know it's 1072? So in this table schema in here, you've got CRM dynamic items 1072. How do you know it's that? So if you go into the front end of Bitrix and go into your SPA, so if I went into Smart Process Automation, clicked on one of our SPA tools in here, you'll be able to see when I click on my reimbursement claims, in the URL, it says 1072. Now that's how you find the table for your SPA, okay? So if your SPA has an ID of 1060, that would be it. 1046, that would be it. You click on that and you would then be able to see the data in there. So that defines where it's coming from. And if you have any custom fields in here, so if I was to look at, for example, our date, our invoice receipt, attachment, or category, these are all custom fields that you add to a new SPA when you create one. Now you can click on, in your SPA, you can click on the little gear icon. You can click on field settings, and this gives you the ID that you need, okay? So you can see I no longer need that one because I'm using a standard field. But you can see in here, we do use the category in our reports. So I know that it ends in 144. So if I go back to my query, you can see in here that that is essentially that code. Now, as I say, you don't need to learn SQL to be, we can help you with this. If you know it, fantastic. It's absolutely fine. And you can run that on there. So if I was just to click on here, click on run, and then that query then pulls up some really clean data for us to use. So we've got the value of the expense submission, who submits it, we've got the stage, date submitted, and category. Now I can build some quite useful widgets out of that. It's nice and clean. I've got a date field, which is really important. I would say in every data set, try and have a date field. And then, yeah, we can obviously kick on from there, okay? So if I just, what we'll do next, if I just switch back to my other screen, so just bear with me one moment. And then the final part of this session, the last 20 minutes, 15 minutes or so, it won't take too long, is about creating your dashboard. So we've got that data set that we're going to be using to create our dashboard. Now, how do you create the different widgets? How do you create a number widget using that data? How do you create a graph, a table? I'll be able to show you how we can use that clean data to then create our widgets and have a look at them on our dashboard. And then after that, I'll be able to show you how you can add a filter to your dashboard. So I mentioned that every data set that you use, especially all the library ones that Bitrix provide, they already have a date field in them. So that's really good to go on that. But if you're creating your own from a SQL query, then just include a date field, because having a filter on your dashboard allows you really to drill down. For example, show me all the expenses that have been submitted this month. I'll be able to pull that data out. So I'll show you how you can do that. And then you can stylize your dashboard. So you can stylize it in terms of dragging and dropping widgets where you'd want them. You can have tabbed. I think I showed you in the example right at the beginning how you can click on the different tabs. You can have titles to split sections out. I'll be able to show you. The more, I guess, you make it nice and friendly for the users looking at it and colorful, the more engagement that you will get in it. So let's go back into Bitrix, and I'll just show you from my dashboard where we were. So we've got the data set in here. I'll click and save my data set. What I'll do is I'll override the one that I've already created. So I'll click in here, click on overwrite and explore. And then that gets us back into the charts area. Okay, so at the minute, I've got the raw data for every submission that has ever been submitted on our reimbursement SPA. So you can see my employees. Now, what we want to do is we want to start building our widgets and charts out. Okay, so if you want to see what type of charts you've got, you can click on View All Charts in here. So I just clicked up at the top, just in this very top section. You can click on View All Charts, and you've got a whole range of different charts. A lot of people like the gauges, so you can set maybe targets. The number widget is obviously very popular as well. Tables, I would recommend just having a click through and having a look. The popular ones are identified here: line chart, bar chart, area chart, table. 4K means a big number, which they're going to use straight away, and a pie chart. So what I first of all want to do is I want to know the total number of expense claims ever submitted. So I click on big number. When I do that, what it's asking me is a metric. Okay. Now a metric can only be a number. So a number being either a monetary value, which we've got in our value column, or a count, which I'm going to use in a moment. So that counts essentially every item based on the filter that we use. Okay. It's got to be a number. That's the most important part. You can't, in metrics, you can't use anything else because it's summing, it's adding them up, or it's averaging them out. The metric is the key numeric value. Now, what I want to do is I want to count all the expense submissions that have been submitted. Now, when I do that, I click on update and I can see that there's been 22 submissions. Okay, big number 22. So I want to give that a name. So I want to say number of expense claims. Now, one of the important things is that I mentioned about the date filter in your data set. I've only got one date in here, so it's automatically added it into here. You can't remove it. But if I had two date fields in here, so let's say I had a date submitted and maybe a date approved, I would just need to bring the date approved into here and then get rid of the date submitted. Okay, so it has to have a date. I'll include another filter in a moment, but I'm going to do total number of submissions. And then I want to add it to my expense dashboard. Okay, so save as number of expense claims, expense dashboard. I'm going to click on save because I'm going to keep adding my widgets to it, and then we can design it in the last 5 or 10 minutes of this session. So that's my total number. So that's the number being counted. I'll remove my metric now, and I want to show the total value. So what's the cost of these expenses that have been submitted? So I bring the value and drop it into metric. You can see the sum. It's got different ones. I can use an average. So what's the average expense submission if I wanted to? But I'm going to add them in my sense. Click on save, click on update, and that will give me 5,009. Now, you can change the formats. So you can click on customize on the right-hand side up at the top. Instead of adaptive formatting, we can click on the number in here. So £5,094. I want to add a currency to this because it is actually a monetary value. So it shows me £594 in money. So instead of calling it number, I'm going to say value. Okay. Update chart, click on save. Make sure you save as, because if you don't, it will just keep overwriting the widget that you created initially. And then I click on save. Now, the next part that I want to do is I don't want a number anymore. I want to use a table. Okay. So I don't want any metrics in my table, but I need to define my columns. So when you use different charts, you do get the dimensions option. So what I'm going to have on here is drag my table columns, which is what the dimensions mean. I'm going to put employee second, stage, and then category. Okay. And then if I click on update, that should show me what I had previously. And it might be that you'd want to have, again, the monetary value on the number. So I can click on value, because at the minute you can see it's not very pretty in terms of, I don't know it's money. So I could say that I'd like that. I'd like that to have a prefix in here, and then click off. And you can now see that that's a better approach with regards to the money. And then I'll just rename this table of expense claims. So I'm just showing you obviously the different widgets that you can use. Again, save as, make sure that, otherwise it will overwrite. And now what I want is, I don't want a total amount. I want to show me all of the approved ones, okay? So what I'll do in this case, and I want them approved by responsible person. So again, I'll just show you a different chart. Again, we get presented with different actions. I'm going to remove the amount of the dimensions in here. So on a bar chart, it's asking me for the x-axis, okay? So that's obviously across the bottom. So I'm going to add my employee across the bottom. Across the y-axis, I want to know the value. So again, number, monetary value, I drop it into here and I can click on sum. But this time, I only want to see the approved. So now this is where I bring in a filter into my filter area in here. Click on equal to and click on type in approved. I know it's called approved because you can see it in the table to the right hand side. Click on save, click on update. Hopefully that shows me a bar chart that has people across the bottom and values across the side. So again, I can click on customize. I can change the color scheme if I wanted to. X-axis is the date. I want to have the y-axis is money again. So again, it's these little nice things that obviously make sure it's monetary. And then here we'll have approved expense claims by responsible. If I click on save, save as, and in here. And then we'll probably just maybe we'll do 2 more. We've got 10 minutes remaining. I'll have a pie chart. We haven't done a pie chart yet. And I want to know approved expenses by category, okay? So with category, again, I can move the category into dimensions. You can do it, I mean, you could, if you wanted the value of type of category in here, or you could have the number of expense requests by category, completely up to you. But if I was to press update on that, you can now see that if I hovered over each segment, £655 on rental, 1,490. And again, I don't like that format, so I'm going to just make it, see, 1,885. Okay, so again, approved expense claims by category. And if you wanted to, you can then, so if I again save as, maybe I'll just do the unapproved on here. So I will do one more bar chart. My x-axis is employed and sum is value. Instead of approved, we just changed, I believe that's what the stage is called. Don't want the dimensions in. Click on update, and that gives me now an unapproved expense, or rejected, we'll call it. So this is how you can, I mean, I'm obviously just showing you the different charts here just to give you some ideas. Click into here, click on save. And what I'll do this time is I'll save and go to my dashboard. So now all of those widgets that I created a moment ago are now showing in here. Now they're in no order or no nice visual elements to it. So we click on edit dashboard. And when you click on edit, it now gives you the ability to start stylizing it how you'd want. So those are a little bit big for me. I'm going to make these a bit smaller. And it's nice that it gives you a grid because then you don't have to obviously mess about with. And when you drag and drop, it shows you which section you want to drop it into in here. And then again, we have, so I'll just move this to rejected. Might want to just make that a bit wider. Make that one a bit wider. Make that one a bit wider. And one of the good tools that we also have in here is this layout elements to the right-hand side. So if we wanted to put a header, so I might want to put a header in between here, and we'll call it approved expenses. And then again, what we'll do is we'll bring another one. Just drag and just make sure you have to drag and drop and make sure it goes bold. And I could say rejected expenses. And once you're happy with it, obviously, one of the good, I quite like tabs, probably not a good use case for this, but tabs allows you to have those clickable buttons up at the top. And when you drag and drop, you can drag into each tab and then lay out each accordingly. It's like dashboards inside dashboards. You can click on save, and now you can see starting to look like a nice dashboard. One quick way, and I'm just conscious of the time, one quick way that you can do is you can edit it. And let's say, for example, I wanted to change this one quickly to rejected and then add it to my dashboard. So once you've done one widget, you can essentially duplicate it. So unapproved, just changing the filter. That will then change. And then we can save as. Again, don't overwrite because it would update my approved one. I can save and go to dashboard, click on edit, and then drag and drop into the relevant area. Now, the last part of any dashboard is the filter. Okay, so now what we want to do is open up the left-hand panel, and I can add a filter on here. So I could click on add. We can specify any type, numerical range, a value. I'll do 2. I'll do a time range. So we could call this date requested. Click on save, and then that would add in here. So if I was now to test this out, and let's just say current month, click on apply, and hopefully everything changes as it does. So you can see it's only showing this month. These have all changed accordingly based on this month, as opposed to if I did the previous month, click on apply. Again, hopefully everything changes. There would be 11 there. That's everything. And then again, all of these change accordingly. The other one that you can use, you can add another filter on here, and I could say, for example, responsible. I can then select one of the value fields. So in here, I could click on employee. I could click on save. And then maybe I just want to show Damien's. Click on apply. That would change everything in the dashboard. 3, a match. And again, he's got that, lodging. And again, you can use 2 filters at the same time. So that's generally the process of how you start to build out these dashboards. Now, I've shown you as a data set from an SPA. Again, we can help with that. But if you wanted to use leads or deals, you can pretty much do the same. So yeah, that's really how you start to build it out. And then that would be available if I was to refresh this now. If I could then publish this, so I'm currently on draft mode, I can click on publish. The access permissions that you gave previously would then be able to access it in here. And again, you'd just be able to see exactly what. So everything is now published live, and for the people that can see it, you can therefore see it on here. So hopefully that's given you a bit of insight into the BI Builder. Again, I'll just switch back to my slides just to finish off. So I've just noticed that, again, my face is covering the offer that we're doing. But we offer a range of packages. So we offer essentially a report building package. It gives you 15 hours of report building in terms of, usually we require consultation to understand where all the data sits. We review your system. Then we build the data sets for you to use over and over again. And we can create the dashboards for you, which we've done for quite a lot of our clients now. And then it just gives you, after it, we give you the training on how to edit it, how to adjust it, and then you can expand and get. We usually say this is a really good starting point for anybody that's wanting to have reports, that if you don't want to do them yourself. The offer is, at the minute, we're offering 20% off the standard price. So I think it's around about £1,200 for that package, and it works out about $1,520 for those of you that are in the US. So it's not only these packages we offer, but we offer like CRM implementation, we offer integration packages. We try and bulk them up to give you quite a lot of value. So if you are interested, please do get in touch with us. If you're wanting to have a go yourself, that's fantastic. If you've got support with us, as I say, we're more than happy to point you in the right direction and get you on track. Hopefully that's all been useful to you. We obviously have a wide range of webinars, not just the BI Builder. This is the latest one that we've created. Sam Takes Next Level CRM, where we look at the CRM projects, HR tools, self-hosting Bitrix yourself, business processes, total telephony, and actually the latest new one is the AI Top 25, where we will showcase you the latest 3, which are social media posting from Bitrix and having AI generate the social media posts, and document parsing, where you can put a document into Bitrix and it pulls out all the data that you need and puts it into leads and things, or a deal or an SPA. It's clever enough to know what you're wanting to pull out of it. And also data enrichment. So if you're getting leads, we've got AI tools now to enrich your data as well. To, let's say, if you get somebody or a business inquiring, we've got AI tools that allow you to enrich that data and get a lot more information about those people that are inquiring. So that's quite a good webinar that's coming up very soon. You can register for all our webinars on Intreface.com/webinars. And as I mentioned right at the beginning, if you do have any questions and you want to ask, just go to Intreface.com/ask. It's got a web form there, and we're more than happy, as I say, to help where we can. For those of you that have got support with us, you know how to contact us, hopefully. And yeah, so hopefully it's been really useful for you. I think that's about time. I'm 1 minute over. So thank you very much for attending, and bye for now.